Welcome to the Business Real Talk podcast, where you'll learn straightforward and simple ways to scale your business, and we're keeping it real. I'm your host, Nas Echeverria, an 18-year marketing expert and the founder of Next Level Up CEO and the Easy Yes Method. I'm also a wife, a mom of three, and a real talk strategist. On the Business Real Talk podcast, we'll dive into how you can disrupt your industry, create a pipeline of premium clients, and how to scale your revenue without scaling your time. If you're ready to dive straight into how you can use my Easy Yes method, I want to invite you to check out my free mini-series that breaks down how you can replace all of your sales and marketing efforts with just one Netflix-inspired client acquisition system that turns cold leads into raving fans in 7 days. Go check it out at easyesleads.com. I want you to leave this podcast with business strategies that are straightforward and timeless. So let's get real. You know you're the expert. Now let's get everyone else to know and understand that too. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. I am your host, Nas Echeverria, and today we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart and is one that absolutely has changed the game for my own business, but more importantly, has allowed hundreds upon thousands of businesses that I've been able to work with to transform how they're able to scale, but more importantly, how they're able to bring about huge, massive change within their industry. So what we're going to talk about here today is how to make competition irrelevant and why this is the key to finding and communicating your it factor with innovative gap methodology. Now, if you're a business owner that has been around the block, you're tired of people saying this sounds great, but then turning around and paying someone else. And you know that you have a body of work, you have the talent, the skill set, the ability that you've spent years cultivating and countless hours that drives incredible results. And you see hundreds of testimonials to back that up. But when it comes to your marketing and to the scalability of your business, you look and sound like everybody else. And you're getting in sales conversations with people who seem interested, but that's not turning into sales as easily or as consistently as you'd hope. And we're going to talk today about what it looks like to develop and leverage innovation within your business to create competitive advantage, leveraging the innovative gap methodology, and why this is the answer to you amping up your scaling power, cutting through the noise, eliminating competition, and taking on your role as a thought leader. Now, I want to get real with you. So many of you are just not thinking big enough. I speak to countless people every single day, all the way from brand new businesses to 8-figure business owners. It doesn't matter. But what it really looks like is that oftentimes I see you operating a business like it's just something that you're doing. You're not looking at it from the empire that you're building, from the brand that you're creating, from the huge visual mission that you have for that next phase in what you're doing. Now, imagine for a second that Jeff Bezos sat down and thought of Amazon as being just a corner store that only went as far as his local community. That would require a completely different way of thinking and would eliminate the possibilities and opportunities that were truly ahead of him. And so often I see business owners, especially in the online space, who have set their sights on a goal that's just a little too small. It's, hey, I want to make X amount of revenue or I want to sign X amount of clients. And while that's well and good, it's not looking at the full capacity of what's really possible, because innovation is the key to turning those impossible goals into the reality that you want and propels your growth faster than you ever thought possible. You want to have Jeff Bezos sized goals. You want to be able to see the potential and the capacity for huge shifts that are beyond your small little online space that you're in right now. Now, what I want you to recognize is how can you create that type of space for yourself? That's what we're going to talk about, is how can we develop a space, a thinking, a shift so that you can see the potential in opportunity way beyond this online space and this small little place where we're in. Because so often we've been conditioned and been around people where it's just about making 7 figures. It's just about hitting some certain number of clients that we're serving versus saying, I want to create a revolution. I want to change the entire freaking industry. I want books to be written about me. I want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. And it's not just from a reputation standpoint and like the applause that we want. It's from the standpoint of you have the capacity of taking a tiny idea that's here right now and turning it into a big, massive revolution. Not many people will even have the vision to see this through, but there are those of you who are hanging out in my world that have had this and then you've either put it on the back burner because you thought to yourself, that's so far out, and or you've never really thought that was even possible because that's not what you see in your immediate space. I want you to get outside of the online industry's ideal of success. And I want you to start seeing the potential of what it can look like when you see through a huge mission and value of what you can bring to the table. So when we look at innovation, it's not in the marketing that we do. It's not in the revenue we create. It's in how can I build a legacy that outlives what I'm doing here and now? How can I create change in an industry that does not exist right now? How can I build innovation into a space in a market where that potential lies? And so often it's not being seen. So here's what I want you to do. And here's what I'm going to take you through on this episode. We're going to talk a little bit about what it actually means to leverage innovation, how that gets approached, the difference between your offer framework, proprietary methodology, and innovative gap methodology, and why innovative gap methodology is the only thing that's actually going to create the full potential of opportunity for you to take this bigger. Okay. I'm talking to my empire builders, to my revolutionaries, my game changers, my thought leaders, the people who want to write books and have books be written about them, and the people who understand that they have the capacity for real change. Because what's going to happen is beyond what's happening in your circle and in your world right now, we are looking at the full potential of what is beyond that. The quintessential thought leader and visionary who can now stop at nothing to bring about the change that you want. That's not being communicated or felt by you right now because you cannot see past this current world that you're in and not at the gravity that you like. So here's what I want you to really be thinking about. Beyond the sales we make, the revenue we make, the clients that we bring on, what change do you want to bring about in the world? Like, I'm talking changing how things are done. And I speak from personal experience. I know when I first got into this business and I want to do marketing. I didn't want to do marketing. Like, that wasn't my goal. While I had a degree in it, while I had spent years in corporation doing this, when I left my corporate career, I actually came to my husband and said, I want to make a change. I want to leave a mark on this world. And my immediate thought was, again, what can I do that is normal, that people see as is right now? And I thought maybe I'll become a nurse because then I can actually touch and change people's lives. But the reality was I was squeamish around blood and passed out when my husband got stitches one time. So I knew that was out. And so I had to look beyond that. I had to ask myself, how could I change the world, or at least my piece of the world, in hugely empowering and incredible way that would allow me to leverage what I do best in a bigger capacity? That is a question that so many people don't come in with. They come in with this idea of, I want to do something important, but they don't see the gravity of what that can look like. If you're not able to see the gravity and the potential behind what you could actually create, then you're always going to keep working at the small things that we're doing. I see that so often. I have clients who come to me and they're thinking so small. They're thinking, I want to do sleep consulting because I want to make more money and I want to be able to do this. When they don't realize that, what if you had a approach to sleep consulting that could change how children are able to soothe themselves long term, become the maker of something like the Ferber method? Why do we not think about creating and leveraging that value of potential that's available to any and all of us? We aren't conditioned to do that. We aren't taught to think that big. That's the reality. And I know that's a little scary to hear, but we're not taught to think about this huge vision of what's possible. I use Robert Atkins as a great example too. He came in and was like, I don't just want to help people lose weight. I want to change how weight loss has ever been done before. I want to change how this has been done before in my industry. That was me. I came into this saying, I want to change how we attract, convert, and retain clients. But more importantly, it was bigger than that. I want to change how we make a mark on this world. So my mechanisms were leveraging marketing, was leveraging sales tool, was leveraging innovation. Those are all mechanisms. But the big end game goal was how can I help people create massive fulfillment, create actual change in the world, and create revolutions? That to me was what I signed on for. So I want you to ask yourself, because none of this is going to matter. None of what I talk about in this episode is going to mean a damn thing if you're thinking of, I just want to sign clients or I just want to create a program. I want you to ask yourself, if there were no rules, no barriers, there's no too big or out of touch opportunities, what would you like to be the mark that you leave on this world? I want you to ask yourself that. I'd love to hear it from you because it's probably something you've kept under lock and key, but I want to hear it from you. This is what's going to spark the ability to think big enough to create an innovative gap methodology that truly will change the world and your slice of the world and create a revolution. That is what I want to start with. If you're listening to this and you're like, I could care less, I don't want to create that kind of change, this is not an episode for you. We're not just talking about marketing here. We are going to talk about real change that we bring about in an industry. So now let's get into it and talk about what it means to actually understand the difference between your offer framework, your proprietary methodology, and innovative gap methodology, and why all are not created the same. Now, I've spoken with thousands of business owners and CEOs, and they all say to me, Nas, I have a methodology. And I'll ask them what that methodology looks like, and they'll list off steps inside of their offer that drives results. And all of those things are really great. It's absolutely important to have. But that is offer framework. It is not methodology. So, what I want you to understand is that people might have fancy acronyms that then they break down the key elements that are driving results within the offer. So, let's say, for example, you're a life coach and you have an offer that helps people declutter their life so that they can think clearly. And you've developed the CALM framework to help people declutter and think clearly. So, maybe C stands for carve out time, A stands for align actions, L stands for leverage systems, and M stands for make more room. These are elements within an offer that drive a result. I want to be clear, okay? The key within an offer framework is that it is offer specific. So if you have a different offer, you will most likely have a different framework and it guides the actions within the offer. I want you to understand that oftentimes when you see this, you are creating an offer framework, which is great, amazing, incredible. It is not methodology. Now, let's now talk about what it means to create proprietary methodology. Proprietary methodology is something that is unique to you. That's a really big differentiator. It's a specific set of processes or techniques that are developed by and around you. While everyone else is teaching Facebook ads, you instead might talk about the scaled visibility method, which consists of elements that are already widely known, but they're packaged together in a way that makes it unique. So while maybe everyone else talks about Facebook ads, you're talking about your scaled visibility method, and it includes mindset, ads, and video content. So you're taking readily available and widely known ideas, packaging them together to create a proprietary methodology. So it's a culmination of existing steps or processes into one singular method. And there's a reason that we teach proprietary methodology in our growth bridge. It's important, okay? And the reality is, proprietary methodology is like the baseline, it's the starting place of creating a unique approach and speaking to a niche in the industry and having a way to create specificity in messaging. So, from a marketing standpoint, proprietary methodology will do the job, will get the job done. And I leverage this within our Growth Bridge program because that is enough for them to be able to create clarity and to create competitive advantage on its own. But when it comes to looking at the bigger picture, like we've talked about at the beginning of creating actual, real, changing the world revolutions, that's about us recognizing that we have to have a certain level of established authority and they have to have a certain level of clarity and specificity around what they're doing. But to start off, we leverage proprietary methodology because it gives us the clarity and the starting point, the springboard to move from, and then be able to see whether or not you have innovation within that. Now, then there's innovative gap methodology. And I'm going to say this here right now. Nobody else does this because this is my innovation in what I do. What I realized is that a lot of people taught about business growth. Not a lot of people understand, nonetheless, speak to this idea of revolutions and movements and really changing the world and creating this methodology that brings about that type of change. When we think of innovative gap methodology, it does not take into account simply having existing elements and packaging it into a new method. While we leverage it in our marketing and sales process, innovative methodology at its core is not a marketing technique. So I want to be clear on that. Proprietary methodology, offer framework, those are all marketable terms. They're marketing processes that are used to create more specificity and get better at marketing. Innovative gap methodology will absolutely change how you do marketing and sales and everything. But at its core, it's not built for that. Okay. So, what I want you to think about is the techniques and processes of what we're developing within innovative gap methodology are actually innovative. They've never been done or seen before. Now, a key element that differentiates proprietary methodology to innovative gap methodology is that innovative gap methodology is based on the market. So, innovation is like a people game. It's acknowledging and understanding where the gaps are, the unmet needs are, and how we can fill for those. And I'm going to go into tons of detail about the three core things that go into this, but I just want you to understand. So, when people create methodology, they don't need to go into depth. They're just saying, here's what I do, here's what I take into account. When we do innovative gap methodology, we are doing an in depth analysis of the market, the competition, and demand that's actually going to drive the creation of your innovative gap methodology. That plays a role because we are not just marketing, we're actually changing the way things have been done up until this point. So, again, I want you to think about that in a way bigger picture where proprietary method can be based just on you and what you bring to the table without acknowledging data within the market. Innovative gap methodology cannot. It requires you to think way bigger, finding innovative solutions to these unmet needs within your audience. And what really comes down to is understanding that what we know and what we has not yet been done. So one of the biggest questions I ask on sales calls that people don't even realize is a core factor for me determining whether or not they're a good fit for my Sustainable Profit Academy is I ask them why they started their business. So this question may seem really like a simple basic question that there's nothing really behind it, but the reality is most innovators developed innovation from the very beginning. We saw something missing. We attempted something a certain way. It didn't work. It was like, why are we not doing it with this? And we worked hard at creating it. And Simon Sinek really said this best when he said, innovation is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and not walking away, even though we've fallen a few times. This is why I tell you, not everyone is ready for innovation. And not everyone came into business to innovate, to change how things are done. And that's okay. There's a difference between people who came in for transactional reasons and transformational reasons. So when I ask that question, I'll get a set of people who will just say, you know what, I really want to start my business just to make more money, to have more freedom, and all of those things. And again, all of those things are great. But then I'll have people who will answer that question and say, listen, Nas, I created and started this business because I struggled with depression. And when I was struggling with depression, I tried therapy and yoga and meditation and all the things that I was told to do, and it didn't work. And what I did is I went down the rabbit hole of learning about what our brain actually takes. And as a result, came up with this process that has changed and allowed me to literally no longer need medication or do any of those things and come out the other side. Like that is the person that I am speaking to when we are talking about innovative gap methodology. I mean, a great example of this is my client Piper, who exactly when she came into me, that was the question I asked her. And her response was like, Nas, I watched people struggle with tick syndrome for so long, going from doctor to doctor to doctor, and being told that we could just medicate the symptoms or help when things happened. But there was no way to actually get to the root cause of what actually drives the tick behaviors that we have and be able to eliminate or reverse that. That is the difference. Like that is what I am working with. The people I bring to the table when we talk about innovative gap methodology is they understand and acknowledge that they want to bring about a change that does not exist in this room right now. That is really freaking hard. So I want to be clear about that, that we are looking at this from a totally different standpoint. So now that we understand a little bit about the difference between offer framework, proprietary methodology, innovative methodology, I want to talk now about what it actually takes to think bigger and recognize that. So we've talked about the fact that thinking bigger requires us to get outside of our comfort zone. So we have to be able to be willing to do and look for things that haven't yet been done. That is really freaking hard because we have conditions that have either been placed on us or that we've placed on ourselves, a box that's been what's in existence right now. And in order to be able to see and capitalize on innovation, we need to be able to think differently, outside of the box, think as innovators. And it's what allows us to move from what we know and what is currently the barrier around what we're capable of doing and what we haven't yet thought about. So, I want to give you a couple of examples and things to start pondering on so that you can think a little bit bigger. So, Airbnb is a great example. They noticed that it was difficult to book hotel rooms when attending events. So, they acknowledged that there was a gap, a space of unmet needs. So from that, they thought to themselves, why can't we build a platform that connects travelers to people who are offering spare rooms? But the reality is, Airbnb was turned out by so many funders because they would hear from people who would want to rent out their home or a room in their home to a stranger. So I want you to think about that. So often, when we're thinking about innovation, everyone else around us can't see that new vision because it's not what we're used to. It's not what we've been conditioned to. It's not the box we're standing in. It's seeing outside of that box. It's like being able to say, hey, I can only see as far as the ocean goes, but what if beyond that ocean there's more? I had to open my capacity to be able to see that opportunity. So I want you to sit with that. I want you to ask yourself here and now, why did I start my business? What did I want to do? Where is the opportunity that I see I can bring about change? Now, Airbnb did this famously, and I'll talk to you a little bit more as we go through this about how they filled for those gaps, but you just need to understand that. Another one is Uber. Uber also saw and filled for a gap. It filled the need to be able to connect drivers using their own cars to customers who needed prompt and readily accessible transportation. Again, they were told this is crazy, it would never work, right? Because it had never been done before. But what Uber understood was that that was a potential for opportunity. And how did they understand that? Because they understood and did the market and competitive analysis to see where and how the gaps were. And if there was already demand for that. So those two key components become really freaking important. We cannot create innovation if something that we just think is important, if we have not done the market and competitive analysis that proves to us that, and then also understands the demand that's currently available around that. Netflix is another great example of this. The man behind Netflix is Reed Hastings. And what you may not know about him is that he had rented out a VHS of Apollo 13 and he had forgotten to return it. And as a result of that, Blockbuster had hit him with some huge late fees of $1 a day. In fact, late fees were one of the biggest and most lucrative factors for Blockbuster of over $800 billion a year. So I want you to think about the fact that Reed Hastings was so tired of the fact that on that one video, he hit a $40 late fee and he wasn't happy about it. And he realized, why do we still do this? What if there was a business that we could create that was built around the premise of no late fees? And from that, Netflix was born because he understood, based on a struggle he went through, an experience he had, he recognized and acknowledged this opportunity, this gap, and he recognized that there was demand for it. And as a result, built Netflix. Now, the interesting thing is that he brought Netflix to Blockbuster and tried to sell the business for $50 million. And they said, no, they said, this is crazy. Who's going to want this? Impossible, which is so often what we see when it comes to innovation is that we're told it's not possible. It's not interesting. We don't need this because guess what? We haven't seen it done yet. Now, as a result, we know this now, but Netflix is a multi-billion, hundreds of billions of dollars now in revenue, but they were also told no. They were also told this isn't possible. So I want you to really be able to lean into the fact that there is opportunity. It's, can you see it? So, with that being said, I want to jump into the three core elements that allow us to understand and develop our innovative gap methodology, which is going to feed your ability to find and communicate your it factor. Okay. Now, we've already touched on this and I've shared a little bit about it here and there, but what I really want to lean into and speak to is that there's three things that we need in order to understand innovation. Number one is we need to be able to acknowledge what big result we want to achieve with people. Again, this is not, I want to get more clients. This is not, I want to lose 10 pounds. It's what bigger change does that bring about? What is the mark you want to leave on the world? I talked about the fact that I want to see men and women build businesses that change the world. That to me is the big result I wanted to bring. I wanted to create movements, revolutions, changing the way things have been done. And I wanted to do that with clients over and over again, right? I didn't see the small picture. The small picture was just a blip in the radar. Okay. I want you to ask yourself, what's this big, huge result, the change I want to bring about that's bigger than me, that's a legacy, that changes the world? What is that? Then what you need to do is understand and acknowledge where are the unmet needs. So just like we talked about, and I want to circle back because I told you guys I want to talk about this a little bit more. In Airbnb, their acknowledgement was the unmet need was that there was nothing in existence that allowed people to book rooms in people's homes. They acknowledged that it was difficult to book rooms in hotel rooms when they were attending events, right? So they acknowledged and filled two gaps. So I want to share with you the two gaps they saw. From the consumer side, it gave people the freedom and flexibility to find rooms or homes that fit their needs in locations, etc. That was a unmet need. There was nothing out there in existence as of that point that would allow them to find a space outside of hotel rooms that weren't available, whether it was because of the location, maybe they needed a whole home, that wasn't available. Okay, that was not an option until Airbnb came in and filled that gap. But they actually filled two gaps. The other gap that they filled, which was really important, is during the time where Airbnb was actually brought to life, was during the time of a recession. So, from the homeowner side, it now created the opportunity in the height of a recession to create a new stream of income. So, they filled two gaps. They didn't just fill one, they filled two. Now, not every business fills two gaps, but oftentimes there's multiple gaps that we're filling. And in their case, it was again giving people the freedom to and flexibility to find homes and rooms and fit their needs and locations. But from a homeowner side, it gave people, it had an unmet need of, I needed an additional stream of income, but I can't go create a new job. It gave these people this opportunity to create a new stream of income. Okay, huge. Uber did the same thing, right? They understood that from a consumer standpoint, it allowed people to get a car anytime, any place, right? Not be dependent upon the small number of yellow cabs, or yellow cabs aren't available everywhere. That was the big thing, is that you could only find cabs in certain areas and it wasn't as easy and as flexible, and it could take a really long time for them to show up. Here comes Uber in to save the day, and they acknowledge the fact that there's two standpoints of what they're helping. They're helping people get a car anytime, any place, right? You don't have to sit there and wait. You can put in Uber and get a car immediately. But again, from the driver's standpoint, they understood that this created a lucrative opportunity. Two gaps filled with one solution. Same thing goes with Netflix. Now, Netflix is a great example of innovation that's evolved, right? They started out as having the ability to be able to mail in DVDs to eliminate late fees and eliminate the need for you to get up and go to the store, right? You could plan ahead and have that built out. But as it evolved, they understood and acknowledged that innovation was growing and developing. Huge thing that, again, I don't see a lot of business owners doing because they're thinking too small. Netflix understood that, great, we're doing this, but guess what? What if we could actually create streaming content and make it even easier and more accessible for people? That's when they shifted, like they changed so much of the industry because they evolved through that innovation and created the ability to stream movies and TV shows. That was Netflix that did that. So those are acknowledgments of what the unmet needs are. So you need to be able to say, what are the unmet needs in my industry and in my market right now? That's why I tell you, when we work with our clients, we go through a deep analysis of your competition, of the market, of the demand that's available to them. From that information, from understanding the big result, from understanding the unmet needs, now we develop innovation. So when we look at innovative gap methodology, we look at it from two angles. Okay. Angle number one is you already know what you have is innovative. You knew that from the bat. and you're coming in and you're like, I know what I have that already solves for the problem. So some people will come in, they'll go through this analysis and they'll be able to say, okay, great. Now I know how to connect my innovation to the unmet need. So it becomes much easier for them to communicate that and create. But also, I have people who come in and they're like, I know I'm doing things really incredibly. I do things differently than anyone else. I don't really know how to communicate or even understand what that innovation is. And so, what we'll do is through the process that we take them through an innovative gap methodology, we'll be able to understand where the unmet needs are and then say, how can we now fill for this? This does two things. One, it allows you to come in and swoop in and save the day. So, you're creating that innovation and filling in for that, creates new opportunities that you didn't know existed before. So a lot of our clients come in thinking very like linearly of like, I just want to solve this one problem. And then when we go through this process, they identify all these opportunities for unmet needs. And now their business has the potential to evolve into new innovations year after year. So it's why our clients go on to create such huge success is because they're not thinking just a straight line of, I want to achieve this. It's now they have the capacity and ability to grow into and evolve into this new value of innovation. Okay. We've gone through so much today, and like, I really just hope you're walking away from this thinking bigger. Like, if you could do one thing after this episode, it's, oh my gosh, I have not allowed myself to think in this bigger capacity. I want to change the world and I want to leverage innovation because I respect and honor and acknowledge the fact that I have a bigger potential of why I was put on this earth. And I want you to recognize that this is the starting point for you being able to find that it factor and leveraging innovative gap methodology. And in the next episode, I'm going to talk to you about what this actually looks like and how we translate the methodologies that we create into our sales, marketing, and delivery processes and why it's the key core factor to everything that happens. But as always, I want you to understand that this is why I am so freaking gung ho about the Easy Yes method and why we've worked with over 416 clients globally is because it goes down to these three things. It starts with innovative gap methodology. This is the core foundation to the success of our clients for now and decades to come is we're actually developing the innovation. We're creating that gap methodology that is creating a revolution in the industry. You become the creator of the Ferber methods and the Atkins method. Like we are creating something that's going to change the face of the market and your industry. So that is number one. We do that through our very structured and engineered approach of acknowledging those data points that allow us to find the unmet needs and solve for those. That's always number one. It's what allows our clients to be able to create a true market of one. Like I know a lot of people talk about markets of one. They're talking about it from a marketing standpoint. I'm saying we're creating a true market of one, okay? Where competition is irrelevant. You're creating a space in the market that did not exist before you came in to create it. That is what allows my clients to charge 5 to 10 times more than others to create inbound demand, have people who will only work with them and nobody else is because they've developed this. From there, we apply this inside of your marketing and sales systems. This is our bingeable sales system. It's what actually allows your audience to learn how to sell themselves. We use our proprietary mimic decision making process, which conditions your audience to be able to make decisions on their own by literally mimicking the natural course of decisions within marketing and sales. So it's an incredible approach. It's why we're revolutionizing is not just in creating the methodology, but also in how we apply that methodology to marketing and sales is because this is going to allow your audience to sell themselves using this Netflix effect by mimicking their decision-making process. And third and final piece of that puzzle is how we actually apply that methodology inside of your delivery system so you can actually get results for your clients at scale without being dependent upon you. This is where the ability to change millions of lives comes in. Again, if you're looking at your business from the standpoint of what's only available in front of you, you're thinking too small. We're looking at what is the potential and capacity for how you can change the world with your methodology through your delivery systems. So again, if you have listened to this and this has struck a chord with you and you're like, holy crap, Nas, this is what I've been needing. I want to take my business to a whole new stratosphere. I want to invite you to book a call with me. On this call, you and I will sit down and we're going to talk and look at your business as it is right now, what the potential opportunities are, and how we can actually help support you in building that to scale and creating your empire and the revolution that you've always wanted. So you can head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call right now. If you're someone who's like, this is amazing, this is incredible, I want to learn a little bit more, head on over to easyesleads.com. You can check out our 3-part mini series where we break down exactly how the EasyS system where we break down how the Easy Yes method works and how you can actually leverage this to get your leads to sell themselves. So if you want to go check that out now, again, you head on over to easyesleads.com. As always, we love and appreciate, and I would love if you would take one quick second today to go on to wherever you're listening to this on your favorite platform. And if you would rate this and share it with a friend, it means the world to us. It allows us to create change beyond our own world so that we can help people create their own revolution and leveraging innovation in order to do that. So until next time, here's to keeping it real. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Business Real Talk podcast. If you're serious about accelerating your growth, doubling or tripling your revenue, and going from the best kept secret to the only and incomparable solution in your industry, then be the first to listen to each episode by hitting subscribe and sharing with a friend. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Next Level Up CEO to learn more about how you can declutter your marketing and leverage the Easy Yes method in your business to focus on results and create a truly scalable and sustainable business that doesn't suck up all of your time. To get a sneak peek at my proprietary methodology that has allowed my clients to double or triple their revenue, go check out my free mini-series that shows you exactly how you can replace all of your sales and marketing efforts with just one organic and evergreen client acquisition system that brings in premium clients on repeat. Go to easyesleads.com to access the mini-series now. And as always, stay tuned for next week's episode on the Business Real Talk. Until then, keep it real.